I'm excited.
Picture me has to start on time. Walk in. This is walk in. I'm gonna give it a
I
couple
don't
beats.
think I sent you my walk up song.
Oh shoot! Can somebody hum it? What would it be? That's a good
I don't even
icebreaker.
know. I've been asked that before, and I'm not even sure what it would be. But
I know. I make people do them all the time, and I think, what would my walk-up song be?
I think you need to toss in a voice of God here.
yeah.
We're about to begin taking seats. Yeah.
Oh, I have one. Was it Garen? Who does voiceover work? Was that you, Garen, just now? I can't remember now. No.
I do as well. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Lynn Edwards.
Nice. Who did that? Where'd that come from?
Very good.
Where'd it come from?
I don't know. So that was a voice of God.
That was Garen. You said Garen, and I
did
took
say
my
Garen, we
cue.
don't see your picture.
I don't see you anywhere. I don't see your name anywhere.
That
I
was
saw
a-
you come in.
There you are.
There he
That
is.
was a
Garen, that was
VOG
good.
right there.
That was the best we've had.
Thank you.
That was probably the best think tank VOG ever. And the fact that you weren't even here.
The
made
fact
it
that you weren't even
more
on the screen.
Hot
was
takes.
like-
Are we still allowed to say ladies and gentlemen?
Oh,
Yes.
I haven't
She's
been
from
allowed to
Texas.
say that for quite a while.
We say it in
friends.
Texas.
What are you using instead?
Please welcome.
Oh, but
Just
you
forget who's in the audience. Just
Yeah.
jump
Okay.
right into please welcome.
I did a couple live videos last week and it was, hi friends, thanks for joining us. Get out of the ballroom. Those ones, I just call them friends. Hi friends, thanks for joining us. The meeting is concluded. Please leave because we need to reset. Okay, well, it is 1:04, so we got to go because this is going to be a really good think tank. My name is Nancy Spooner. If we have not met, welcome to the Tempo Think Tank. It started as a happy hour when the world shut down during COVID, and it quickly became an industry think tank because we realized that we wanted to get back to work, and we started training each other on how to get back to work. It was, how do we call shows from home? What is Unity? What is a platform? We had someone from Zoom actually come in and teach us about, some of the new updates that was happening with Zoom. And so we met every single week. And I would say every single week, I really hope this doesn't continue because I want you all to get back to work and be too busy to be here. So we slowed down for a little bit and now we found a nice rhythm of once a month. We have a think tank. The goal now is to get you to continue to work and get you to work as strong, independent businesses that you should be as freelancers. So I try to always keep the think tanks, business savvy. This month, we're doing how to network and not be a weirdo with our guest, Lynn Edwards. And then next month, it's going to be what business entity are you and why, and what should you be with Jonathan Wells. He's done one before, but it's been a couple of years. I want to bring him back to talk about that. Are you an S Corp, a C Corp, an LLC, sole proprietor? What's working, what's not working, what should you be? The month after that, which is January, we're going to do like financial operations with our fractional CFO at Tempo, and she works with a handful of you on basic bookkeeping and financial operations for accounts payable, accounts receivable, how you should invoice, what you should save, like just kind of give you some basics on being running your own business. And then the month after that, it's personal brand and how to work on your personal brand. So it's going to be fun. But for now, I'm gonna skip introductions for lack of timing because I think there's so much content going on here that Lynn's gonna fill up a lot of our time. And at any time, if you want to ask a question, please do. You can just raise your hand physically or press a little button to raise your hand. This is not supposed to be just the Lynn and Nancy show. This is actually a think tank where we're all working together of things that have and have not worked in the networking world. I feel like since June have been pointing at Carmen and saying, watch her go, because Carmen has been killing it in the networking world lately. If you guys follow her on LinkedIn, she's probably already linked with you just now because she's that good. And it's gotten her work and it's working really well. And she's got some tips that I bet you she'll share with us on networking as well. So, gosh, that was a lot. Having said all that, I did have Lynn send me an introduction. I should have Garen read it, but I'll try my best Garen impression. With over 30 years in the event business, Lynn has a passion for the industry that has led to producing 5,000 plus events worldwide, partnerships with industry giants like Microsoft and Amazon, and speaking engagements that inspire event professionals to create extraordinary experiences. Her unique gift lies in crafting the perfect atmosphere where genuine connections flourish, whether it's a keynote for 1,000 or a strategic consulting desk for destinations. She helps leaders create the magic that happens when people gather with intention. Please welcome our guest, Lynn Edwards, founder and executive producer of Evo 3 Events.
Hi,
Yay,
everybody.
which I think might be
Yay.
changing.
It is, yes.
Yeah, that's the whole part.
Confetti. Yes, thank you, thank you. I'm so excited to be here and be connected. Nancy and I met recently, and I took the opportunity to pop into some of the YouTube sessions with you guys, and I was geeking out. I was so excited to just see this part of the industry talking to each other and building great support for those that are the show owners like myself. As Nancy said, I think I started my first event when I was packing the camper for beach trip with the family at 8 years old, making sure we had the frisbee and the hot dogs and I think it's this natural skill set that I've been leaning into. Definitely probably plan the prom and everything since, but came up through the hotel business, spent some time in the convention and visitors bureaus, DMOs, and have had my own planning company for 25 years. My company, Proper Planning, was acquired a year and a half ago by Evo 3 Events. So I've been knee deep in exiting, selling your business and what all that means. And so I'm now transitioning more into the industry, training, education, consulting, and really sharing all I've learned over the last 40 years. So super excited to be here today and kind of facilitate this conversation. I was sharing with Nancy that I find it interesting, generationally, a lot of people hear the networking word and they just cringe at that. And I can tell you for certainty, I would not have built millions of dollars worth of a business without my network. So your network is everything. It really is. And so I don't know if we need to reskin this. The brand girl in me wants to call it something else. But I had a client with Chase Bank recently look at me and say, I feel like you could get in that phone and dial up anybody you needed. Within 30 minutes, they'd run to your rescue and provide something for the event. And I said, yeah, fortunately I do. I have that deep and wide of a bench. Sometimes the networking can be your vendors, your partners that way. And then networking can really be around growing your business and the industry connections that you make to get future gigs and to drive revenues. But I really think that the magic of gathering, once I was in the business for a long time, and when we went into COVID and the gathering kind of went away, there's been this need to try to recreate it digitally. And I've done every form. I produced 88 events the first year of COVID on 15 different platforms. I got real good at production. I tell you what, my production team was like, oh, she knows enough to be dangerous. But I really did learn a lot technically about the production. It just kind of worked for the first 25 years, but I was forced to get in and learn about it. And so when I saw people come back together, I had a moment where we had a team building event in New York for top 100 leaders of this large software company. And they made an announcement when we first got there that 50% of these leaders had never met in person. And so we had this super fun bowling, have drinks. This whole night I'm watching with such interest in how these leaders connected during that social time. And it's just unmatched. It really is necessary in this world of how we work together to try to build this network in all different formats, but certainly in a networking atmosphere. And that's what we're doing as event professionals, is trying to create that space where magic can happen. So that's kind of my background. Big, small, we've done, like I said, over 5,000 events over all these years. And that's what brings me here to talk about how valuable the network is. And I think that I came up through the industry when people were teaching classes of how to do networking. And one of the most valuable tips I remember getting very, very young, and they said, anytime you're in a room or connecting with a new person, the first important thing to do is bring value to the relationship. And what that means is when I meet Carmen, let's say, and we're having a conversation, she tells me she's a dog lover or something like that, right? I might say, oh, have you ever heard, I did an event for the Assistance Dogs International, the people who train the dogs. It's really cool. Like, how, have you been involved with any of that? So bringing some sort of valuable conversation tip that is going to establish me as someone that Carmen wants to know. Meeting someone to say, oh, are you on the board? Are you on the board for this group? If not, I can connect you over here to Jane. She's the host of new members and she can facilitate a mentorship with somebody in this organization. It's just really, it's become an unconscious act for me, but I learned it very early. And I don't know if anybody else has any examples of what it means to bring value to the conversation or to that new person in your world quickly and easily. And yeah, Nancy, you got any examples
I'm
of
just
that?
like, raise your hand, team. Anybody? Can you think of something? What I thought of, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, is there's a fine line too of bring the value and then listen and keep
Yes.
asking them questions instead of like, oh, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. You name drop, you present the value and then keep asking them questions. Keep listening to them. That is humongous. So it's not don't turn it around to the you show, but right, keep asking them questions.
Well, and I think it's interesting, Nancy, you mentioned that Carmen probably has us on LinkedIn at this point. That is something, a timely follow-up from any engagement point that you have with somebody and a personal, customized response. Carmen, it was great to meet you. Loved hearing about your new dog and your family. Congratulations. I'm sure they're getting excited for Christmas. Something where we're now connecting on professional level, but around personal items that can connect us in a way that I feel like it distinguishes you from the other 100 people I met at the event.
That's great. You know what? I do have an example.
Yeah.
Barb and I, Tempo sponsoring an event, a workshop next week, which is a bunch of AV agencies, some of them full service production agencies. And we have the guest list since we're sponsors. And I have to email them because my husband, who is our CEO, also understands how to network and knows how to reach out. And I was like, every single one of them, he's like, yes. And you got to personalize them. And I'm like, oh, so like,
Yes.
So I did last night, you guys. Barb was BCC or CC'd and all. I emailed all of the attendees, some in groups, like if it was one company. And I added a personal note like, hey, I love Nashville. I used to live in Nashville. And it wasn't salesy. It was like, I love Nashville. It's such a great town. And I was like, we are one of the sponsors at Jumpstart and we're going to have a small table. Please come by and say hi. I've got a couple giveaways. No pressure, just event people loving to talk shop. It was that simple. We have 4 inbounds already, like good ones, like, oh, I want to talk to you. I need stage managers, or tell me more about what you do. And it's because I put my own little personal something about them that I researched them. I researched all the companies with the help of ChatGPT. They told me where they were based, how many people, all this stuff. And then I had a question for them, or I talked about them personally, and it worked. Like it was 50 emails. I have 4 inbounds that looked nice. And I wasn't being weird. I was like, we're going to be there. Hi.
Yeah. And I think when
Yeah.
you say how to do it without being weird, I think that the more you're genuine yourself, the more it creates space to make a genuine connection. And I think if you lead with sales, when I say bring value, I mean value as far as an interesting statement or, a way to connect, not necessarily a sales, value. Oh, our ballroom's 3,000 square feet. This is about people doing business with people they know, like, and trust. And it's a small world. It's certainly a smaller event world. And we are being asked to do incredible things with tight budgets, with partners and people that we have to rely on. And so that relational part of our business has to be strong. People ask me, why do you travel with your, the same AV company? It's like, I trust them. I've been in the trench with them. I understand their team and how they intersect with my speakers. And, but we're in a very interesting business. And I shared with Nancy earlier this week, I think one of the ways that you can connect us is we love to talk about what we do for a living. We are a unique breed. It's not a banker that you meet every day on the street. People get what they do. This is a unique industry. I loved watching the difference between a stage manager and you had somebody else on there, the same thing. There was this huge conversation.
Deck manager.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, they're putting on these titles on it. I didn't really know what all that meant, but of course I've worked and intersected with all of them for years. But it was everyone should be curious and want to learn more. So one of the things I was sharing with Nancy that helps me open a dialogue with somebody if it's feeling a little awkward is to just say, what's the coolest thing you've worked on recently? And then listen. But what's the coolest thing, or what has you excited right now? Or You know, how are you seeing AI show up in your world? We're all trying to learn this thing. You know, how are you seeing it show up? Are you a big time user, early adopter? Like something about what they do for a living, and people, that's their comfort zone, right? They feel comfortable saying, "Oh, I worked on this really cool corporate offsite and we did this and that, and we never saw somebody hang from the chandelier, and that was amazing." You know, there's something unique that you can quickly pull to create a connection in this industry. And I think that that's a good way when you're feeling awkward, like, how do I open this rapport between the two of us? And I think if you have a leading question that you can kind of crutch on and just be like, "Oh, hey, Kate, nice to meet you. You know, what's the coolest thing you've seen recently? You know, you work inside the event world. Are you behind the scenes or out front, or, you know," and just understanding the audience a little bit. That conversation might be different if you're going to Thanksgiving and you're meeting, you know, your sister's boyfriend. It could be not necessarily has to be industry related, but if you ask them a question, "Oh, I heard you're a baseball player, you know, who's your biggest team?" Coming with a question opens space for them to answer and connect back to you. And then the other piece of it is, I really think everybody needs to refine what they call the elevator pitch, and have an opening statement where it evokes curiosity from the other party. So, for example, when we're in Seattle, you know, in Seattle, we did this event every year, and it was startups and venture capitalists, and they got on the Space Needle, and they had like 30 seconds on the way up to talk to each other, and the investor at the top decided whether they wanted to get on or off, to go back down, right, for another 30 seconds. So the whole idea of this was this pitch, and it might feel weird. You're like, it doesn't feel authentic to be pitching, but everybody's pitching themselves. Everybody's introducing yourself to the world, to potential coworkers, to potential customers. And so you do have to have a really interesting, who are you? What do you do? Right? I think that that's something where you can be like, "I'm Lynn, I'm in the memory making business." And people are like, "How do you do that?" You know, and you get them to ask, and you're like, "I produce gatherings of all kinds of sizes all over at different venues. And, you know, I'm an event professional." But I think that that opening, you know, being really clear about what you do. And sometimes people outside of our network don't know the difference between a stage manager and any other role. You could be like, "I'm the one who puts people on the stage." Or there's an interesting thing in the tech startup world where they say, "I'm the, you know, publishing clearinghouse of this industry." And people have that analogy and they're like, "Oh, okay, we all know what they do. You're that in a different industry." So having that little opening line where you're feeling comfortable, use it, refine it, where it creates conversation. If it falls flat and they don't want to know anything more about it, keep working on it so that it is interesting, especially if you're looking for new business. We've got some questions. Jump in there, Nancy. Who's got?
I think Jill, do you still have a question, Jill? I saw your hand up.
Well, I was just going to add to your, and sorry, I'm off screen. I decided 2 hours ago that I was doing it myself to fix my shower, and I've been to Home Depot. Okay, anyway, just last night, I think like looking at the guest list ahead of time is so important. I know it seems like the most simple thing, but like I used to just sort of show up at something. And just last night, I was at something that I'd been invited to, and I hadn't seen a lot of these people in a long time. And someone goes, "Oh yeah, I saw you were on the list. It was good to see." Like, you know, like, oh yes, people are doing that, and it makes it so much more productive. Anyway, I was also going to say I was invited by my AV friend, and she is always constantly introducing you to someone else. Like you're at an event and it's just she's like, "Oh, here, you need to meet so and so," and like kind of walks away, and just she's constantly doing that. And sometimes I feel bad thinking, when am I going to give it back? Well, we've each proposed each other, you know, she got me a gig for next week. I was able to finally hire her after months. So I know this is all simple, but it does finally happen over time. And I think that's just that I've always am like, wow, she just is constantly not even asking, "Oh, what project can I do for you?" She's just introducing, and it ends up being business for her in the long run.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's
You know,
all.
and I
That's
went
great.
to an industry event in the Northwest, versus primarily where I grew my business. And I had a young team member with me. She was just 2 years out of college. And she's like, "Oh my God, you know everybody at this event. They all know your name. How do you?" And I'm like, "I've had 30 years with these people. They've saved my butt. I've saved their butt. We've done work together. We've done great things. And it's like, you're new, you're coming in new, you're going to build your own, you know, alumni group, if you will, for a lack of a better name. You know, you're in a sorority. You got how when you started with your other people in your sorority, you kind of went through the, you know, college life together. Those are your solids. Those are your people that you've done work with that are going to stay with you. And you never know when someone in that network is going to open a door for you. So you have to nurture those relationships. You know, you have to be giving, again, bringing value to the relationship. Hey, you know, Chad, I saw this cool thing. What do you think? If you know, Chadwick, if you were working on this, do you think this coloring's cool? I don't know. It seems a little off to me. What do you think on the schematic here? You know, just creating those dialogues. And I think LinkedIn, you know, has been an incredible tool. And I think about Facebook and going, okay, I don't stay in touch with my aunt, but I also know what she had for breakfast because I kind of just scroll through and I look and I feel somewhat connected to her when I meet her at the holidays because we have had that intersection. So if, you know, I think LinkedIn is that for business. If you have the ability to take a picture of your show and talk about what you're doing, you never know who's going to run into that profile and then start engaging with people in that. In a direct message. It's a discipline. It's like setting time for yoga class or whatever, to go in on LinkedIn and read things and comment and be like, congratulations, this recap video is stunning. You know, something like that, where again, it's a personal connection. I have this event planner in New York that I've never met her in person. We're going on, I think, 2 years. We keep up with everybody's each other's shows all the time. And so again, if I met her in person, it's kind of what Jill was saying, you know, you got to look at that, people that are coming to an event, and maybe check out their LinkedIn profile. I just went to a meeting last week, an alumni meeting with something, and I realized somebody went to a similar school that I did. And I kind of picked out about 3 or 4 people I wanted to make sure I met at this, went into LinkedIn, looked at their profile, read about their history, what they've been working. I'm like, I didn't know you changed jobs. You know, that kind of coming to a meeting. And I do a lot of sales training for hotels. And I said, you know, these are calls that I get. Hey, Lynn, do you plan any meetings? And in my world, that is like, it's really rough, you know, that they've not been trained up properly. It's like, you can find out all kinds of information about me. It's everywhere. It's on my website, it's at LinkedIn. You should know exactly what I'm working on and have some kind of probing question that is customized. So I feel like you did a little bit of research when you're selling to me. Now in a networking situation, it doesn't have to be quite so formal. But I'd love to hear thoughts on LinkedIn, what you guys think about that tool.
Carmen, she's speaking your language right now. Check Carmen out. Tell us your story, Carmen.
My story. A couple of years ago, I got someone reached out to me cold on LinkedIn in a private message, saying that I seemed like I would be a good fit for their program. And at first, I thought they were selling me something, or was some MLM or something, but they were talking about an event and they were asking me to be a deck manager. At that point, I had only done audio. I had worked as an A2. And I'm just like, how did you even find me? And I had, I guess, liked a comment of someone that was in their network. And so they just saw my name pop up and clicked on my profile and decided that I would be good for this job. And something just sort of clicked. Like, you just have to get in front of as many people as possible on LinkedIn, and they will. And people, like, I mean, obviously not everyone will then say, here's a job, but I would say that I get a lot of work through LinkedIn, not from those kind of posts where people are like, hey, I'm looking for a stage manager, and then it gets reposted 70 times and they probably get like 7,000 messages. It's not that. It's people reaching out to me directly. Hey, I saw your profile. I'm expanding my bench, or, you know, or you seem like you'd be a great fit. You know, so-and-so, so you must also be a person I would want to work with because I love them. And I would say, like, so I do a lot of connecting. I try to have a personal interaction with people, that, especially if they're sending me connection requests. And I always just send a message and sort of open it up as like, thank you so much for connecting with me. I really like to get to know the people in my network so I know how I can better help them. Would you like to set up some time, and have a chat to get to know each other better? And I'll spend half an hour just learning about them, and a lot of times not even really talking about much of what I do at all, just figuring out what I can do for them, and then them talking, and it's like, hey, here's someone I think you should talk to, or here's a group I think you should join. Nancy, I send people to you all the time. I'm always talking about Tempo, whether it's like joining as a freelancer or someone that's looking for freelancers and filling space on their shows. And then over time, those relationships just start to, something happens from them.
What about Nick Bacon? Did you meet him online?
So Nick Bacon, I saw, I don't know if we were connected at first, but he was certainly coming up in my feed because we were connected, like second degree connections. So, and then he actually, I think, reached out to me and sent me a connection request. And then he sent me a message. I didn't even notice that we both lived in Richmond. So then we got together in person because we both live in the same town. And then since then have, like I've introduced him, like the first thing I did was introduce him to people in my town that I thought that he should know. And he ended up doing a whole business development deal with a vendor in town, and then eventually he asked me to do something that, he was working on, and we worked together, and we've become buddies. But that happens too. Anne, actually, who's on the call, like we got to meet in person. We were both on different shows in DC, but that happens a lot too, where I'll just say, hey, I'm going to be in this town. If anyone else is going to be there. And so a lot of people, then I'll try to meet in person if I can.
Yeah. I think of you because Nick Bacon, who's a Tempo teammate now, recent, he's got such good content that I love reading on LinkedIn. I don't know how he got in my feed, but I was like, I just love the guy's last name. But I also love, he's just had really good value to his content. And so we somehow linked. I don't know which way it went, but we got linked. And then I saw Carmen and Nick linked and sharing something together. And then I got them a show together, which was kind of fun too. I'm like, you guys want to be in a job together? Carmen's married. This is purely platonic.
So is Nick.
Yeah, I don't know Nick's story, but it was just neat to me to watch that friendship, that workship thing happen between the two of them. And I think it's because he's so active on LinkedIn and sharing valuable content, and Carmen's so active as well. And then to see them hook up, you know what I mean? And then they're both in Richmond. Like, it was just kind of a neat story. And I just think Carmen's so good about being proactive and putting out valuable content on LinkedIn. That's probably our number one networking place right now for us. But then I also was telling Lynn, I mean, I've been a freelancer my whole entire life. My dad used to build Highline towers, those big, huge electrical towers. So he was also a freelancer. Like he was only as good as his next gig. He had to make it to the next. It's like building a railroad. You have to make it to the next line, right? But people have to know you and like you. I remember one time we were talking, and I said something like, "Yeah, I got to go to the bar tonight. We're all meeting up at the bar." And he goes, "You have to go to the bar. You don't have to drink, but you have to go to the bar, because that is where, when we're on show site, you guys." That is where I've built so many of these relationships, is at the Circle Bar in Vegas. You know, it doesn't have to be a drinking thing, but it's a community thing. And it's getting to know people after hours is where I've gotten my next gig, from somebody that took me to the next show, that took me, you know, it's just freelancers will gravitate towards each other, right? And take that freelancer to the next show. So next time you're on show site and I know you're exhausted, I don't go out as much because I've got the network now. It's been 30 years in the making, but I hustled. I worked extra after hours meeting the crew and getting to know the crew and the other freelancers and the producers that wanted to meet after work or go grab coffee or something. So that's another.
I totally
huge
echo that.
networking.
It's that social atmosphere that's a little, you're not heads down on with the tactical and logistical. You actually can just relax and get to know somebody on a more personal basis. I can tell you that in building my business over 25 years, I spent $0 on marketing, zero. And every piece of business that I got came from a referral from somebody. It came from somebody that we knew that we did a great job. And you just can't underestimate the power of word of mouth about your skill set, about how easy you are to get along with, how great you are at speaking with the talent. You just can't. And I always say that about events, don't underestimate the power of swag, the stuff we all get. That I'll be at a Microsoft event with people, bajillionaires, and they'll be waiting in line for a t-shirt. And I'm thinking to myself, you could buy the t-shirt manufacturing company, and yet here you are, you want to get that TechEd 2017 shirt, and so don't underestimate the power of just natural connections and how those can open doors for you. I say, people say, oh, how do you get new business? I'm like, listen, nobody is looking online for a eyebrow wax or a chiropractor or something that's a very important partner that you're looking for. You ask people, oh my God, I love your eyebrows. Who does your eyebrows? Oh my God, you seem like you've got rid of all your back pain with this chiropractor. Let me know who that is. So, the work is coming from the inside the industry through the channels of connection. And if you're not doing anything to advance you personally or your career through networking, then you're missing out on opportunities for people to know that you can add to what they're trying to accomplish. So I don't underestimate the power of networking and making connections. And if it's overwhelming, come up with 1 or 2 people you might want to meet at the event. You don't need to stay at the reception for 3 hours. Go in there with a game plan and be like, go in authentically, go in curious, bring value. I mean, Carmen, I thought it was amazing. You just, reiterated what I was saying when you were telling them ideas of things that you're bringing value to that relationship, and that strengthens the bond. And I think that you could do a quick 30-minute, let's have coffee online. Nobody has to deal with traffic. Let's do a quick 30-minute get to know each other. I did have an event where we had online networking, and you got to spend 5 minutes with people, and they just shuffled the deck of who came up. And I got 3 new partners I took 6 meetings, and 3 of them I've done business with for 2 years since, in a 5-minute conversation. I liked them. They brought value. They were interesting. The work that they've done, they shared it in a really interesting way. There's something that I just had happen. I think I shared with Nancy, but I've always tell partners and vendors, tell me what you're working on. Bring me some ideas that again, bring the value, and keep me posted. So there's this really cool brand new email I get from this company called House of Attention. I'm like, first of all, that's a cool name. Second of all, this email just said, Lynn, we know you're producing big events. Look at these top 3 cool things we're doing. And they had a link to video and static photos of these 3 concepts. One of them was 1,000-course meal while you're at the event. And 100-course meal. Welcome to the 100-course meal. And I'm like, what is this? Mind-blowing. What are you talking about? And so all the pictures, they put the money out. This is starting at X tens of thousands. I was like, I'm in. Tell me more about this 100-course meal. As an attendee, I think it's interesting. It looks phenomenal. How is it logistically, facilitated? But I emailed them back and I said, this email is so powerful. You got my attention very quickly. I now believe that you guys do innovative stuff, and you gave me some resources to get me thinking and be a better planner. Let's do some business together. I don't know when and how, but I want to do business with House of Attention. They are doing some very innovative stuff. I had a drone show that we were trying to produce, and I said to him, hey, listen, I need a good idea of good, better, best on pricing for drones. Like, what impact, minimum number of drones, what's the lowest buy-in here? That all came from that email that we've since quoted out a drone show from this same group that just sent me a brief email about, look at the cool stuff we're working on. So does that resonate with you guys as far as how you're putting yourself out into the world and the fact that everything's coming through referrals because of the kind of work that we do?
I think, Lynn, what you've said about, it's really about human nature. If you meet someone on the street you've never met before in your life, people always want to talk about themselves. And don't ask yes or no questions. That's the first thing I learned about networking. Do you work? Yes. That's a terrible question. What do you do for a living is not a yes or no question. And so I think networking and understanding human nature, that, man, people will talk about their grandkids, their dogs, or what. If you're genuine, they'll give you all that information. And I wanted to say one other thing. I had a client that I used to work for years ago, and the production company went defunct during COVID, but I still had those people I knew at that company. So I kept calling. 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting with the CEO who had started a new company. And so that production company is no longer in the picture. So I wasn't stepping on any toes. This was a brand new chance for you to talk to them. And eventually they gave me a meeting. Meeting didn't turn out to anything, but they gave me a referral to someone who does hardware installation at corporate companies and homes. That's not my forte. But that guy knew someone who did corporate events and had a production company. So my point is, if you just keep asking and talking and be persistent, it's all about persistence and understanding people love to talk about themselves, and they'll give you referrals all day long if you ask the right questions.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is when I work with generational consideration at an event, where we have this idea that networking, that I don't know, I'm not comfortable doing that. I'd love to stay in my bed and be online and scrolling. And I just, this whole idea of getting out there and shaking hands and kissing babies is a little weird. I said, I don't think that they've had their moment. I had an event where the state association event where this guy's been trying to build something and he needed a permit for his bridge to get the project done. And he happened to be placed in a foursome on a golf tournament with the guy who issues the permits. And they legit went back a couple days after the event. He got his permit escalated because he now knew John and they had celebrated a birdie on par 4, whatever it is, right?
Right.
I don't think this generation maybe has had their bridge permit moment where they understand the value of this connection of like, oh, hang on, let me call Annalise. I'll see if she's done something similar to this and might have some insight. The voice of God, I have to tell you, even just in this, I have so many needs for voice of Gods so to hear that, I mean, I'd be like, Nancy, how do I get a hold of that person? That was amazing. So anytime you can show off your talents, that's awesome in a real authentic way. But just a personal connection of high five, great golf round. By the way, I also need a permit. Can you help me with that? Once you create a more personal connection, you can start making business asks. I think that's something I would definitely share. I don't come in guns blazing asking for business. It's about building a rapport.
And by the way, Carmen, I want to say one thing about what you said. I did the wrong thing in LinkedIn. I asked about just a position. I needed a web programmer. And oh my God, to this day, I still get 50 emails from ding dongs like, oh my God. It's just, you got to be careful how you use LinkedIn because that is not the way to use it. You'll get inundated till the cows come home.
That's when you use Slack. We have a more curated network for you there.
Yeah. Oh my God, LinkedIn, you could ask the wrong question and just get emails forever.
Oh my gosh.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I actually have to jump into a 245 here in a minute, but and I've been using LinkedIn, and this is great because I don't think I've been using it as well as I can be. But I have listed all the agencies that I currently freelance for. Should I list Tempo Live Events? Can I put that in there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right? Okay, cool.
That.
Because all right, that's what I didn't know if that was an issue or not. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, and you know what?
The other thing that I've seen that works really well, Chad, is it's eerie how this works, but like you do that specialty thing, and Lynn, you kind of mentioned about having a special project or something interesting work that you worked on. I had a client that I've had for years, and as I'm doing a regional meeting, they threw, oh, tomorrow we'd like to do a Jeopardy thing. Okay. So I found buzzers. We faked up the thing, the contestant areas and all the kind of stuff, and it went okay. So a major buyer, now my largest buyer of my services, and I'm a show caller and producer and that kind of thing, heard, because I said in a conversation, yeah, I did a Jeopardy show. You do a Jeopardy show? Now I manage a stage that's at a major association event. They ask for me every year because I do Jeopardy, and I do exactly that. Then another association under this group said, oh, we want to do a game show. We want to do Family Feud. Call Chris. Okay, great. Then the other thing that I did is in my LinkedIn, and I'll put it in the chat and everything so you can see what it is, because it's not just Cherik, it's my first name, Chris. I put my projects in there. So you see all of my projects. It's if somebody is interested in what I do, great. Then they can see specifically what I do. And I have little write-ups on the project that isn't in the middle of the whole page. People have to search for it. I have been called, I had somebody from the UK call me because they had a financial thing in Chicago where I work, and they said, hey, can you do this? Now, the other part of having a relationship is I said, yeah, great. And then I got a 6-day booking over those dates. So I called up the person. I said, I'm booked on that date, but I will find you another show caller. I will do that. And she goes, you are awesome. Because most people will just say, sorry, can't do it. Good luck. But no, my name is important. I want people to remember that I'm a good guy and good at what I do. So I didn't leave him in the lurch. And now that other person who I got a job for is also referring business to me. So
Yeah.
it's a huge network.
It's
just,
you know, and when people casually say, oh, networking, I'm like, your network is everything. It really is everything that's going to lead you to an abundant career. And thanks for joining, Carly. I think that, the other thing is around your network is you've got to, like any relationship, you've got to nurture it. So one thing I would do, let's say you have your top 5 clients that you work with, and all of a sudden one of them has gone away, and now you're just not getting gigs from them. You don't know reaching out to them. If you have a personal relationship and be like, how are things going? I'm just, checking in. Things lightened up for you guys. Just nurturing that and staying connected and being aware if one of your major network pieces falls apart and checking back with them, checking in with them on a regular cadence of, hope you're doing well. I saw you were in Florida. That's cool. I just finished a show there. Look at my thing. Like, you've got to put a little, and it's overwhelming when you think about LinkedIn and swallow the ocean. I'm talking about, start with, I want to get 3 new contacts and sometime in this month. It's, bite size where you can be like, oh, I saw this guy do a post. This is interesting. I'm going to comment on it. Let me stay in touch with Steve. So I just really think that it's a continual process. It's not get in, meet somebody and get out. It's continually grooming. I mean, Nancy and I have been in touch by email over the last 2 or 3 months, getting to know each other. What do you do? How do you do? Why do you do it? What's happening in your world? And she's like, can you help me with this conversation on the think tank? So it just takes time. You have to cultivate these relationships like you do any other relationship in your world. Pay attention to them, bring value, remind them that you're there and you want to work together. I think, Chris, your point about being a good resource for people, they know that eventually if they're going to get another gig, they're going to come back to you first, because you took care of them. I had a client that I was on a board with, and I was in a hotel and she was a meeting planner, and she called me one day and she said, I don't have a piece of business for you, but I would like to know what you would do in this situation with my hotel contract. And this light bulb, I was like, this was 20 years ago, and this light bulb went on that she sees me as an industry professional and a resource more than a buyer-seller relationship. We have just gone to the next game level of network. She's calling me to say, what do you think? Am I in this thing too tight with this contract? So that's and I think if I asked you guys, tell me the top 5 most important people in your network, could you list those right now? Just think about, you don't have to answer, but think about that for a second. What if I said 3? Give me 3 people in your network that champion you, that know your skill set really well, and they speak highly of you in rooms that you're not in. Are you actively engaged with them with 2-way communication? If those top 3, if you don't know who they are, you don't have active communication with them, you can start massaging those relationships. And then really, I think letting your people in your network know, hey, I'm, the whole open for business thing on LinkedIn was interesting, because I kept thinking it is interesting to be able to get to your network and say, hey, just so you know, I'm taking on new clients. That kind of soft pitch of keep me in mind is super productive as well.
Yep. And I just heard that study, and I was typing when you were doing it because I wanted to pull it back up again. But your working memory, you can have 5 to 9 people right there in your working memory at once. Your inner circle is usually about 15 people, and this includes family and all that that are top of mind. And then your close network is about 50 people. And then your fully social network is 150 people that you can keep top of mind. So back in the day with Tempo, I would say, just email me so that you're top of mind. Because I don't know, I can't remember, I won't, in 3 months, if we haven't talked, I won't remember who you are. I meet so many new teammates every single day at Tempo. How you stay top of mind at Tempo for example, is showing up to think tanks like Lonnie. I call him Ronnie again. Lonnie, I haven't seen Lonnie in so long. But he was there every single week at the think tanks, and when life was really hard, and it's so great to see him again. Now he's top of mind again, and you just told me that you want to get back into the creative part and not be a technician. Like, it's those little things that if you want to help us help you, is show up at think tanks, even show up at a new member meetup, because I think they're still pretty fun. They're a little bit different every time we do them. But then also socially on LinkedIn, because Barb and I are trying to actually get more clients, because we've never had to. The clients have just come because you all just keep bringing your friends and you keep bringing your clients. We're trying to grow tempo on LinkedIn, because the more clients we have, the more jobs we have for the database that won't quit growing. It's commenting, it's sharing our posts, and then you're top of mind. By the way, did you see that, Walter just commented on our post? And when you do that, Walter, your network now sees tempo. And if you tag tempo in something, then your network sees tempo. And it's really important to tag people that if you want to network too when you're on LinkedIn. If I tag Lynn, then her people are all like, well, who's this Nancy girl talking about Lynn? Or what is this tempo thing that's going on? Like, I purposely tagged you the other day because I wanted my team to see you, and I want your team to see me. We had a contractor, it was last month, I might have talked about in the last think tank too, who wanted to know why she wasn't getting such and such job. And when that happens, I will call you, because I love you all. Like, I'm really concerned about your happiness. And she was upset. And I first researched all the jobs she had applied for, and then I called her, and she was applying for jobs that wanted locals only on the East Coast, and she was West Coast based. And I said, that's the main reason. I go, but we did have one that we got to fly somebody in, and I chose a guy from Chicago. I go, but he's always sending us clients. He's always sending us freelancers. He's always commenting on LinkedIn on our stuff. And she got a little like, so that's how you choose people. And I was like, well, it doesn't hurt. Like, he was top of mind. He's built a relationship. I know he loves our team. I know he's been a really good contractor for us. Like, we have a relationship, and this woman, I don't know her yet, and so he's top of mind, and he's always scratching my back. I will scratch his. So think about that too when you're making friends out there and you're networking out there, and you're, help a sister out, help a brother out. It will come around, and it'll come back to you. You get more than you give. Right?
I think that building your network is, there's something around working in your business and working on your business. And if you think of the difference of what have I done to work on my business this week, this month, what am I doing to grow the business, or expand my network? And the stuff that we've shared is pretty basic, and probably, you probably do it unconsciously anyways. When you meet someone, you're nice and interesting and all those things. But if you don't, it's like scheduling in that yoga class. If you don't commit to some discipline around what have I done lately to work on my business, not in the business, and we get busy and you get in a trench and you're on a show site and you're just in your bubble. But having that on your radar to go back and visit, like, what have I done lately with my network? What am I doing to grow my network? What is my personal network right now? Is it what Nancy's saying? 12 people that I know? No, my network's huge. But I do pour back into it on a regular basis. And it pays huge dividends, because when someone says, get DJ on our show, and it's somebody, I taught a class to some high school kids, and I said, you guys have always learned, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I said, I'm going to do a little skit. Brought two guys up from the room that did not know each other, and I said, hey, talk him into going on a blind date. And they didn't know each other at different high schools. They're like, oh, you should go out with this girl. She's nice, whatever. And then I go, are you going on the date? And he goes, no. And I said, why? And he goes, I don't know what this guy thinks is hot. So I brought his best friend up and said, okay, talk him into going on a blind date. And he was just like, dude, you got to go out with Rachel. She's amazing. She smokes shows, super smart, blah, blah, blah. I go, are you going on this date? And he goes, yeah. And I go, why? He goes, because I know what Dave thinks is hot. And I think that example for these high school kids was kind of like, oh, you're right. I know if Nancy told me to use DJ, I know what Nancy thinks is amazing as in that skill set. So she's giving you instant street cred by the referral. And that's the power of a network, is that you can describe you can convince somebody to go on a blind date with me, even because I know that person and what they think.
Carmen and Lynn, I wanted to ask one quick question about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It always, I feel, helps to have that warm welcome. Like you said, the best friend came up. So if I see a client and they're in your network, are you open to me saying, hey, Lynn, can you give me an introduction?
Totally. And I
Or
think you've
Carmen?
got so much information on there on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, right? You can say, hey, I see you also belong to MPI, or hey, I see that you once worked with Dave over here at this agency. Yeah, start that. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I love Dave. Yeah. So yes, that kind of opening the door with that kind of an introduction, Walter, makes me know you've done a little bit of homework.
Right.
And
Right.
you know somebody that I know, and let's try to do business together. I think most everybody's open to building their network, and a soft open like that can really help.
I think it shows some genuineness and some gumption. You know, people want to know, hey, this person's working at it. They're not just,
Yeah.
throwing things against the wall to see what sticks. They really did do some research and they care and they're researching it and trying to do it.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's-
and another thing that I've seen is, and I put it in the comments, but look for other people who are posting in really interesting ways. There's two people that I follow. One was a client, the other one actually was a subcontractor alongside me with a client, and now she's hired me for, candidly, my largest job this year. But Catherine Janisek is a speech coach, that kind of thing. And she puts up stuff that are kind of like adjacent to what she really does, but she brings it back. She did a thing, she shows, this is why I don't like Diet Coke. And I'm like, okay, how's that going to relate? But it pulled me in and I absolutely love it and I watch it. And the other one is a guy that owns a janitorial company. Yep, he hires people that clean buildings. And yet he does a post every week or so about himself, his history or whatever. He did a post, his name is Stan Dubin, Doobin, about contracts that I copied and keep now as like a referral. Because if I ever get into a contract issue or something, or people say, why are you doing this? Here's the example why. But Stan wasn't writing about cleaning buildings. He was writing about something else. Catherine
Yeah.
doesn't write about speech coaching. She writes about something else, but you remember them and go back. And if I ever needed, well, a janitor or a speech coach, I would reach out to them because they're interesting. So,
Well, and I think sometimes, Chris, it feels overwhelming. Like, where do I start on LinkedIn? I don't have any posts, I don't have any
right.
presence. I think what you're saying is really interesting. It can be things that you see that you just redistribute to open dialogue with new people. You don't have to be coming up with your own original, be this content provider. That takes a lot of time. I also think commenting on other people's stuff, reading it, and if you find it interesting, I made a couple comments and I pushed back and challenged a concept from one of the biggest influencers in the event business. When I did, holy smokes, my network was like, and I'm like, I know I'm going to challenge this after this many years. I think this is an angle that you need to consider. And it's not on this. And he engaged with me directly. This is really thought provoking, Lynn, way to be a thought leader. I appreciate you challenging me in this concept. So next thing you know, we're chatting it up. I'm talking to the most, one of the most important influencers in the industry. So following other people that you like their work, or again, ancillary comments and content that you find interesting and engaging, is really important.
I was going to say
Bonnie,
that.
totally good comment. I tried to convince those high school kids, it's not who you know, it's what you know, and who knows that you're good at it. And a couple years after that talk, someone was like, remember that speech about the blind date? It's totally who you know that knows that you know your stuff. I said, yeah. So
Contrary to what Nancy says, I'm not a LinkedIn expert, but I do have a lot of conversations, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone that wants to reach out to talk to me about how I use LinkedIn. But one thing that I tell people a lot, because they're like, I don't know what to post about, and they feel like, a lot of it is self-serving, or they just don't want to engage in that way, is just to comment on what other people are posting. And they don't even need to be in your network. Like, you don't have to connect with people. You can just follow people. And then you start seeing their content and you can start commenting and building that relationship so that when you do reach out to connect, they already know you. But, I don't know exactly how all the algorithms work. I'm in some other groups where they debate it heatedly about what's happening with LinkedIn right now. But a lot of times my comments that I'll post get more impressions than the actual posts that I'm making myself, which means more eyeballs are on what you said. And I will get tons of people viewing my profile and connection requests just because of a comment that I post on someone else's. So if you're scared or you're not sure what to talk about, there's plenty of ways to still engage without having to do that. And then we were talking about those introductions. I would say also, like, for everyone here, there's no need to wait for someone to ask you to introduce you to someone. Like, if I see someone posting saying, I'm looking for this, I will absolutely think into my network and throw someone's name out there and say that this person is wonderful, and make that introduction myself without that person reaching out and being like, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so? And I have to believe that if I'm doing it, that maybe eventually someone else will do it for me too. Like, the more times I do that. But I think I did it like I've done it, like, Anne, I think I mentioned you this week, like when I saw someone was looking for an associate producer in LA, and I'm like, I know someone who would be great for that. She lives in LA and she wants, she would be a great associate producer. So like, just don't be afraid to do that as well. And that's another great way to engage. Like, you don't have to do anything, and you're adding all the value in the world because you're,
Yep.
You can spot the fake LinkedIn things. I put one in the chat that I get 10 of those a day. Did you see that? It's like, we've seen your profile. Oh my God. It just,
That's weird. I don't get any. And I hear about people that get like,
oh my God, I get
solicited in all kinds of ways. I don't get any of, I don't know why, but I don't get any of that.
I did take a picture of the Tech Nest at this event we did. It's a really cool venue, and I just posted. I was trying to show the stage, but it captured the soundboard, and I had someone DM me, and he said, I can run that board. And I was like, okay, that's kind of amazing. Let's chat. What do you, I'm sure. Okay, cool. He's like, yeah, I just loved the picture. It was super cool. And I love that you included the tech table, and we just, away we went, but I mean, it was a bold DM. I can run that board. And I was like, all right, that's cool.
That's awesome. And I think when you're genuine,
yes,
it shows. Like, we got to wrap this up, but there's an agency that I really want to work for. I just love their work. I love their attitude. I love their teamwork. Like, they just seem like a really cool agency. So I've been following them. I've been commenting on their stuff. Then one of our teammates commented too. And I was like, wait, you know them? He's like, oh yeah, you totally need to meet the CEO. She's amazing. Boom. We haven't worked for them yet, but they filled out an RFP. We're now engaging. It's just because I just honed in on them. They just seem like somebody, oh man, that would be fun. And he's like, they're the greatest company. You two would really love each other. And so it was just genuine. Like, I just wanted to meet them. And I think my introduction to her was, I'm a fangirl. Like, total fangirl of your work. Like, your company looks at me. And I told her, like, I love following your company. Anyway,
well, hopefully some of the ideas I shared were beneficial. And just a reminder, again, it's not, we're not splitting the atom here. It's 101, but you forget sometimes, you get busy. Hopefully from today's hour that you spent, you have some ideas and you'll recommit to just growing your network. And I wish you guys the best of luck. Follow me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. We need to put you in there.
I'll drop my link in.
Drop it in there. I think it's on Slack too. When I put you on Slack, I put your LinkedIn profile on there. I believe I did. Team, thank you very, very much. We will do this again. It will be talking about your business